Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fred Pure. I am the chair for the Citizens Independent Salary Commission. This is our second meeting for the 2021 year. We have gathered. We have already started our meeting. A little bit delay with government TV coming on. So just a quick synopsis. We've already reviewed the minutes from our last meeting and have approved it unanimously. We are reviewing our agenda. We have received some information, questionnaires that we asked the city to provide us regarding some of the city councilors. That information was received. We had no comments from the committee on that information. So the action items that we had before us was, one was to review that information. Two was to begin a discussion of any questions and concerns we have regarding salaries at this point, or where we want to move forward with all the data that we have received. So that's where we are now, and that's where we're going to continue our conversation. So as we are, gentlemen, is there any point that anybody would like to make regarding the analysis that we've looked at, that we've been provided, and where you believe we need to go at this point, or any conversations that you need to ask of Nicole or Leslie or Vanessa for that matter?
I did a simplified version.
Please start your name.
Oh, Dwayne Trithall. I did a simplified version of what Kent did and just took the averages of the mayors and the councilors, excluding the councilor manager cities.
Okay.
And I was thinking budget is a better indicator than population, because like Salt Lake is just multiple boroughs, Denver's multiple boroughs, but they have to support that full infrastructure for that population. I came to a similar thing that Kent did. The average for this group of mayors was 145,000, and the average for the councilors was 53,000, and that included the 6,250 for Colorado Springs.
Okay.
So
let me.
Bottom line is they're underpaid. It's what can we do, should do,
right,
in a tough year.
Well, and that's as our charter goes. And I had a conversation with Leslie beforehand, and Nicole, if you want to throw in on this, the decision of this committee will basically, the city of Albuquerque is required to meet whatever we say. So if we gave a salary increase at whatever X dollar that would be, then they are obliged to come up with the funds to make that pay. So, but I do want to make sure we're focused on talking about city councilors first. And so we'll talk about city councilors, then city councilor president, and then when we're done with that, we'll go into the mayor. Okay. So,
so I just had a comment as far as one of the takeaways for me was it was hard to comprehend the city councilor's salary while I looked at the overall city and the rapid increase in city employees across the board. Despite a population increase, let's say it's been around 100 or 1%, excuse me. If you look at the slide that discusses the amount of city employees within the presentation, it's gone up astronomically since 2015. And I was trying to understand why that was, because understand the budget and the funds, why that was. And I can understand if the city councilors are strained, but you have more employees in the city, what are we not doing to support them across the board? So is it, where are, page 12, second slide, Albuquerque full-time employees from 2015 to 2021? I want to know, where's that all coming from? Is it all coming from the APD? And if we have more city full-time employees, the expectation is that there are individuals within the city that are making the citizens of Albuquerque more safe, better protected, better equipped, better entertained, etc., and that the city councilor's job could fundamentally be easier, including if they have one full-time staff member apiece.
Valid point. I think the research shows that for the most part, all the city employees have received a 2% pay increase almost annually every year since 2015. The last, I think 2020, they also received one, and it's 2021. It's still up for debate. I believe that's correct. Is that right, Nicole? Can you verify that?
This is, I don't believe they got a raise in 2020.
Okay.
I've got the,
I thought they did. I thought the paperwork said they did. Nicole, you were going to say?
Sorry, sorry, Chairman, it was hard for me to hear the other comment, but there wasn't a citywide wage increase. There's a lot of different bargaining units, agreements that have negotiated increases for their members. But we have seen that majority of the bargaining units have seen roughly a 2 to 3% increase since 2015, with 2021 being the first year that there wasn't a budget increase budgeted for in the
Right.
city's approved budget. And obviously I think that had a lot to do with the financial uncertainties due to COVID.
Right. That's how I saw it. And I know that the city councilor themselves received a pay raise of 2%.
I'm getting the shot to protect my family and the community I serve. We all want to get back to normal here in Bernalillo County.
Like family gatherings and working out at the gym.
Going on vacation.
Going to festivals. Going to concerts.
Register.
Per their responses to the survey, I think all but one said they felt it was a full-time job. And if you compare them to the other full-time counselors, and I just did a little quick relative pay metric and said, what proportion or what multiple does the mayor make of the same city compared to the counselors? And in Albuquerque, it's 4. And I'm not saying anything about the mayor being overpaid or underpaid. I'm just thinking that there might be some reflection of how much responsibilities he might have. And in Albuquerque, the mayor makes 4 times what the city council members make. Fresno, and I only looked at those that included full-time counselors. Fresno is 1.6 times the mayor makes. Milwaukee 1.5 times, and Denver 1.86 times. So in other words, another way of saying it is a counselor in Albuquerque makes 25% as much as the mayor, but in these other cities makes more than 50%. And all of them, with the exception of, El Paso is off the charts because they have a city manager, but all those places, the counselors, make substantially higher proportion.
In that review, were you able to determine whether the counselors have any, in those other cities, have any full-time employees that are available to them?
No, but judging from, they're making generally, what do we have? 79,000, 73,000, 98,000.
Mm-hmm.
I would, not just a guess that they probably do have some
staff. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Jose, you had a question. Unmute yourself, please, sir. There you go.
Yes. Well, one of my questions was whether or not the other cities had full-time staff. It seems to me, looking at the data here, that Albuquerque seems to have an abundance of employees, but with regard to the city council and the mayor, we seem to be overstaffed. 31 full-time assistants for the city council for 9 city councilors. And is it plus 1 full-time assistant So that's a total of 40, or is it 31 split between the 9 city councilors?
What I understood is there is a pool of employees for all city councilors to utilize their skills, and then each city councilor has their own assistant. Is that correct, Nicole or Leslie?
Yes, sir, that's correct. So the 31 includes the one assigned.
Okay.
Okay.
That's still about 3 people per city councilor, which seems to me they seem to be overstaffed. If the city councilor's job is a part-time position, then I don't know that they're being underpaid. If the mayor's position is a full-time position, he seems to me to be overpaid considering that he's got 5 full-time staff along with him. Other than that, I mean, everything seems to be comparable with other cities. And other cities, again, budget is a concern for other cities as well as our own. The tax base is a concern. The city of Albuquerque is probably the 4th largest employer in the entire city, along with the air base and the public school system. So most of the employment that goes on here is government related somehow. And it just seems to me, especially considering the last year where almost nothing got done, I don't think there needs to be any changes.
Andrew?
Hold on before you speak, Andrew. Hey, Jose, is it possible that you might be able to, I believe it's your dog that's in the background that's whining? If so, could you assist us with that? Not that we're not dog friendly, but when he's whining, when we're on TV, probably not the most appropriate.
Yeah, somebody just came home, and so he's
okay. Happy to see them.
But he's going to be gone in a minute. Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, I whine when I go home too. So I'll, So Andrew had a comment.
Yeah, I guess I would disagree that there's too many staff members for the city council, especially during the year of COVID. And I'm not sure I agree with that nothing got done. I think that the city council and the mayor were probably never as busy as they were during the COVID year. So I think they're probably worth every penny. It's how much more are they worth with the constraints at hand versus the sister cities. And what was difficult for me was the Appendix A. There is so much data on that slide. I had trouble with the last meeting. And I had trouble with it this meeting. There's so much data. And if you look at the mayor, or I know we're on council, so going across the council on the bottom, it was almost impossible for me to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges, because I was looking at just basic check marks and highlights from what appears to be either a website or indicators. And so if there was a comparison of 8 or 9 criteria of compensation, and then say NA, you're not available, doesn't compensate, or whatever, then I could have a true comparison. But when it says same as mayor or FICA 4746, it just doesn't tell me a lot. So that's what I'm having difficulty with. I do appreciate the feedback on city council having 1 full-time staff member, and the fact that I don't think anybody is running for city council, hopefully not to get wealthy. And so they haven't had to my knowledge, they still are attracting candidates, and the position is not just about the money, it's about giving back to the community as well. There's a lot of prestige to it. You've got access to a staff, the mayor, the city administration, your pictures in the paper, the ambiance that comes along with it. So I think it's more than just about a salary increase.
Yes. Well, and I think they are part-time employees. And we know that because they have other jobs, or they can have other jobs, though several of them identified that they do not, but you also looked at several identified that they have retired. So, and we have to make sure that whatever we do, we're fair across the board, irrespective of the other council members' other activities, that we're not assessing or trying to come up with a salary based off of what we think that they should be making based off of their other potential earnings. So, Ken, you have a comment?
Yeah, a couple of quick questions. One is the 31 pooled people, are they their full-time people, are they dedicated to the city council, or are they a pool of people whose expertise the city council can tap into when they need them and they have other duties on the side? In other words, maybe, maybe Nicole or something might be somebody who's doing other things, but is among those 31. Yeah, I just try to get a sense of that.
Nicole, you unmuted, so I assume you have an answer.
Yes. So my understanding is that it's a pool which the city council can pull from. So they don't work direct. They actually report to the director of council services. Actually, the aides that each city councilor has assigned to them, really, because city councilors are technically part-time, even though they may work more than that, technically those aides report directly to the director of council services, because the way that our reporting works, they need to report to someone who's technically full-time. So that's a pool that council can pull from and utilize, but they're not dedicated to a specific counselor.
I guess I was wondering if they have other duties beyond the council, not that they're that they have a duty to a particular counselor, but are they like a city transportation, a contact person? Counselor wants to know something about transportation. Is that their role, or are they actually employed full-time by the council as a whole?
So that would be not the 9 individual employees that are working full-time on behalf of the counselor, but the rest of the 23-member or 22-member pool, right?
Right. The 22 members, are they just, liaisons, or, if you need an analysis, then that's who you contact if you're a counselor, or are they in a room that works for the council all the time? Makes sense?
Does that answer a question, Nicole?
I think I understand it. The council services department those employees will remain whether or not a counselor is elected or re-elected. So they're a dedicated department with variety of knowledge that the counselors, once elected or re-elected, can pull from.
Right, and then I guess the other half of his question more specifically would be, do those 22 individuals have any other duties other than to support city council?
City council is it supports the whole city, right? So I'm sure they have their hand in a lot of different programs or potential programs. Sorry, John, are you raising your hand? Yeah.
Oh.
Please interject.
Yes. They are council staff, and their duties are city council business. All right. They are not directed by the executive branch whatsoever. In fact, there's a complete separation that's quite clear. Okay. The mayor, for example, could, or the CAO could not fire any of these people that we're talking about.
Okay.
Right? So they're not work. It's not like that. They're there, but they're doing work for the solid waste department 4 days out of the 5 days or something like that. They're working for city council. Now, at the same time, the city council does things like with the Office of Neighborhood Coordination. And so each of these people may have kind of specialized duties under city council, but they work exclusively for and at the direction of this kind of omnibus thing called, city council, and not the executive branch. And of course, we have hearing officers, but we don't really have a judicial branch. So we're basically, we have 2 branches of government, a legislative and an executive branch.
So may I summarize then for you, for everybody? Effectively, the 22 members are available for the council. They may have other functions within the city of Albuquerque. They are immune from any direction from the executive branch, but will make themselves available to the council whenever there's an issue, even though it is not their 24/7 commitment to the city. Is that fair to say? Okay. Does that answer your question, Ken?
Yeah, this is Kent again. I had one other quick question. Does the employment number for Albuquerque, is that full-time equivalent or is that a head count? In other words, like would the 9 city councilors be among those 6,218 people, even though they're only part-time employees?
This is Dwayne. It says FTEs, so I'm assuming.
That's full-time
Oh,
employees.
I missed it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's full-time employees.
It's full-time employees.
Okay.
I guess this question, Andrew, would be for Nicole or.
Try to.
For future meetings, and that we're asking quite in-depth personnel questions. And I think if I were in Nicole's shoes, if I were an interim auditor and inspector general, I would be hesitant to brief the totality of city government, city council question, human resources question, because we're asking pretty in-depth questions. Is it possible to have a rep at the meeting from the personnel department, human resources, they could give the laydown of here are the following employees, here's what they do on a day-to-day basis, here's how they support, so we're not going back to the attorney and the auditor asking these questions, but actually the human resource official that could brief the duties and descriptions and responsibilities that they do, so that when we're asking these questions, we would know a little bit more.
Well, I might ask the relevance of that, in that we have our city councilors representing certain parts of the city as their function, but the rest of the employees within the 6,000 employee base all have a different function. And to get into the nitty gritty of what every employee does within
Not
the
all,
city.
no, I'm saying the 22 or the 9, because the questions we're answering, and I would be in the same position, I wouldn't know the answers to either.
Right.
Because if you ask me random fire questions of, well, what does this person do? What is it? 22, what do they do for the 9 over here? I wouldn't know. But if we had a human resource officer, they could break it down either at the previous meeting or this meeting that says, all right, here's city council, here's the structure, here's how it works, here's the operation, they have their own budget or they don't have their own budget. That way we can have the takeaway, all right, here's how city council runs, here's the efficiency of the organization, and here's what a assistant makes, for example. I don't know how much the council's assistants make.
That was provided.
Could you tell me?
69,000.
Yeah,
So
it
the
was
council's assistants
33.
make more than
The councilors.
councilors.
Yeah, it was 33 an hour.
So you're looking at, there's 100,000 right there. But I just think some of those questions could be ironed out ahead of time, because the auditor, I wouldn't expect her to know
True.
what everybody in the city council is doing on a day-to-day basis. But I think it's important for us to know to ask those questions.
Yeah, this is Dwayne. I'm not sure we can make that relevant because we don't know what the other cities do.
Right.
So we don't have a comparison.
Good point.
I'm assuming they have adequate support.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if we go too deep into what everybody's function is at that level, we can just assume on a general that our city councilors are given a team of city employees to help them research, perform their functions to make sure they're satisfying their goals for the city, and that one assistant is there full time. But I think we start breaking down what everybody else, how many hours they spend helping city councilor, it might not really be beneficial to us in trying to figure out where we want to go with this.
Reading complaints that they're overworked and overwhelmed and not getting paid enough.
Well,
So that's why I need to know, well, I thought they had a support team. If they had a support team, they wouldn't be moaning and groaning about the pay and how hard they're working, because the support team would be doing it for them. So
potentially, yeah. I don't know too many people who don't complain about not making enough money, but that's another story. So, any other comments? Where do we want to go next, gentlemen?
So, this is Kent. So the city council, focusing again on the city councilors, they're now making 30,600. that was as of 2019 and continuing on. So this will be their second year that they've made that amount. Is that,
It was,
I got that right?
the meeting held in
So it
2019
was
was for the
effective last
20,
year.
yes,
So they made that in 2020 and they're making that in 2021.
21. And our function here, any adjustments to their salaries
Right.
will take effect at the next election cycle.
Okay, so, and I believe they said that there was a cost of living in the area increase of 1.7% since their, if I read that correctly, since their raise in 2019.
I don't believe they received, correction if I'm wrong.
No, there was they didn't get a raise.
No, they
got
didn't.
They got a $600 raise.
The 2019 committee gave them a raise of 2%, 1% for the president.
Right, and since then, the cost of living in Albuquerque, I think our data showed had gone up by 1.7%.
Right.
But I believe that maybe was only for 1 year. And now it's been, this is going to be the second year.
True.
So if we wanted to just keep up with inflation or, whatever cost of living, it would be 1.7% plus whatever is anticipated for this 2021.
Okay.
Is that a fair? I'm just
To me,
trying
that's a fair
I'm
assessment,
just
yes.
trying to kind of get an idea here. So if we just said, whatever, 1.7% times 2 or something
Okay.
would be a cost of, just a pure cost of living increase. Assuming that this year, 2021 is about like 2020. Now, so that's one, that to me personally would be sort of like a baseline.
Okay.
Now, I could argue, or we could probably all argue, Jose probably would argue that that's plenty. Others might say, judging from what some of the other cities make, maybe that's a little light, And one other thing is we didn't, when I looked at the employment data, nobody, I don't think no one is going to run for the city council to get rich, and there are other benefits. But on the other hand, I think that we want to make it so that it doesn't preclude people. Nobody's going to get rich at 30,000. Nobody's going to get rich at 40,000, right? On the city council, I don't think. And if I look at 2019, for example, there were initially 17 people, I think, running, 3 from unknown jobs, which I think meant they dropped out, if I read that correctly. So there were 14 people running for 3 positions. And 3 were with nonprofits. We don't know what they were. 2 were retired. 1 was service and 1 was a law clerk. Well, I don't know. We don't really know how many of those were second incomes. If you go back to 2017, 22 ran, 8 were unknown, so that I assume they dropped out. And that left 14, and that meant, and of those, 7 were retired and there were 5 people elected. So I'm not sure that, I'm not positive that we're attracting, people that, I'm not sure that we're not precluding people from running that don't come from, some kind of background that doesn't have some sort of support either through a retirement fund, a second
Right.
income, or spouse.
True.
And I don't know, maybe that's.
No, it's a good assessment. It's a good viewpoint. And I think there's probably nobody on the council that's going to leave, or potential member of a council that's going to become a counselor leaving a well-paid job to step into this if their only motivation is just for their income. So,
Well, or on the other hand, somebody who's poor.
Yeah.
And can't afford to leave even a poorly paid job
right.
to take on another poorly paid job.
Jose, you have a question?
No, just a comment.
Okay.
I think we're correct in saying that there are other perks to being a city councilor, and that the money's part-time money. I do think that $125,000 is enough for you to get rich on being the mayor. That's just speaking as a guy who never made $125,000 a year in his life. So the folks who run for office for specific reasons, for community service or for political reasons. And I think it's a noble thing to do that, to want to serve your community in that way, especially when you consider that, you know, city council meetings, about half of them are just people coming up and yelling at you, you know, during the meeting, or complaining about something, or calling you at all hours of the day and night to tell you about something that's going on in their neighborhood. I think that given the year that we've had with revenue down everywhere for the city, I'm not talking about anybody else outside of the city, I'm talking about for the city, I don't think it's prudent to hand out more money, at least to the mayor or the incoming mayor, even if it's Mayor Keller being reelected. I'm fine with an increase for the city councilors, a cost of living increase maybe, but everything is really tight, and I feel this responsibility, at least from our end within our group, to not spend any more money than we have to, just based on what we've lost here in the last year and what we're continuing to lose. That's just my opinion.
Do we have data on that? Do we know? I don't know what's happened to the city budget and the tax revenues.
And it's possible, post-COVID year, we'll make it all back and we'll be boom time again, and things will be looking up, so.
Well, we did get a lot of federal money.
We got it, yes. Gentlemen, please, just a reminder,
Yeah.
introduce yourself
Yeah.
before you speak, and I know it's hard to do because we're all looking at each other here, but for the sake of the individuals who can't see you.
You know, this is Dwayne, another way of looking at just a baseline would be that in 2020, non-bargaining management got a 2% raise. Clerical and technical got a 2% raise. And as I understand it, there's a 1% raise for everybody in the next budget. So that would be 3% over that time period. But I really do wonder if we shouldn't give the council a little more than that.
Well, I think there's a lot of discussion we can have, and I think if anybody is at a point where you believe you want to make a motion, we could discuss that. Because I think we could probably go around this issue for another hour or 2 hours just talking about what we believe or what we think they're doing and how they're doing their jobs. But keeping that out of it, any conversation, and just clarification, Nicole, any conversation, any raises or salary adjustments, let me take the word raise out of there, salary adjustments that we make will not take effect until what period? January of 2022?
The next election cycle. So November, John, correct me if I'm wrong, but November of this year.
Is the election.
Yes.
And then the position effective date for the election is what day?
I'd have to defer to John.
I think
whoever wins the election, John, when do they actually take office?
Generally December 1st.
December 1st? Okay.
Is generally how it's gone. Now, you know, we had a new state election law. And so passed that may have changed some things. I can check into that, but it's relevant because but the budget, it's certainly within this budget year because our our fiscal year goes, from, June 30th, July 1st to July 1st. So,
So any decision we make through this commission or this committee will be implemented in the 2022 fiscal year, which starts July 1st. And then whenever those elections come through, December 1st, as you're saying, the pay raise would take effect.
right. But my understanding is not all the city councilors are running. And so their salaries will not be affected.
Yeah, and that's the letter that was sent out the other day that showed the 2017 when they came in, 2019 when they came in. So it's just the people that are up for election this time, which I believe was 4 of them.
Okay. Everybody understand?
So then you could effectively have 4 individuals making a different amount than the other 5.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying, John? Okay.
This is Kent. So it would be a staggered, if we give them a raise, there's people that are grandfathered in at the old salary and they wouldn't get the new salary until they got reelected after their whatever.
Yeah,
Another year or 2.
the process for us is that any salary change that we make for the city council or the mayor does not take effect until the next election cycle. And because the city council is on a shifted election where you have half of them started in 2017, half in 2019, then one was appointed in 2020, they would do their 4 years. So the one appointed in 2020 would not be eligible to see a pay raise if she was reelected until 2023. And I said that correctly, right, John?
Yes, and you can see the wisdom of that is that you can neither reward nor punish, a city councilor or, the mayor's race is on this year, who is currently in office, unless they win that office again. And so it makes sense.
Right.
To stagger them, even though they're going to have different salaries. You could neither, reward them or punish them unless the voters reelect them.
This is Andrew. Fred, are we to the point where that the committee is in an agreement on city councilor pay adjustments? It's just a matter of how much. Are we to that point yet in the meeting of that we could essentially get a consensus of it's not so much if they deserve a pay adjustment, it's how much and what that adjustment would be?
I think the appropriate answer to that, there may be 1 or 2 individuals that may feel different, but I think the only way to address that, honestly, is for a motion to be made on a salary amount or percent increase, decrease, or neutral. And so if anybody would like to make that motion, we can then have further discussion on that.
Thank you.
But I can't make the motion.
This is Dwayne, and I'll just throw out a figure for discussion that we give the counselors a 10% increase.
Okay, so that's a motion.
That's a motion, yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion on the table from Dwayne to give a 10% increase to the city councilors. Do I have a second on that? I have no second.
This is Kent. I was debating about second. I would be more likely to second it if it was a little bit more than that. Just take out let's see, we're at 30,600. Just a cost of living would be in the neighborhood of 30, close to 32,000. So that's a little more than the cost of living. I guess I was kind of thinking maybe more like 15%.
Yeah, this is Dwayne. You can second and then we discuss it.
Right.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a second on Dwayne's proposal for a 10% increase. Now, this is for the council members. We also have the council president, but we can discuss that next. So I have a motion on the floor for 10%. I have it seconded by Kent. And so then is there any discussion, Jose or Andrew?
I have discussion that I think, this is Andrew, I think that 10 to 15% is extraordinarily high. I'm for an increase, but not in that proportion. If we look at city government employees that say some of them, I know not all, if we're looking at 1 to 2%, if we're looking at the mayor, we haven't talked about yet. If we're looking at the broad scope of the median income of Albuquerque or a part-time position, I would much rather be in the ballpark of a conservative but rewarding raise of 2 to 3%, or salary adjustment, excuse me.
Okay. Jose, any questions, comments you want to make on that?
I would be willing to go along with a 10% increase for city councilors and for the city, well, we haven't discussed it yet, but for the city council president as well.
Okay. So Kent, Dwayne, any other comments you want to make? Again, we have a proposal on the table. And so this is the discussion point, not a voting point. So
This is Kent. My thought on the 15% had
let's
something.
stay with the 10%. That's what's on the table. Okay.
Right, but we were going to discuss why we might support that amount, why we might support more, why we might support less.
Okay.
Right. So, and I mentioned 15%, and you said we can second and then discuss. So that's sort of where I was at.
Very good.
My thinking is this, that that once I heard what John enlightened us, and I see the rationale regarding the pay increases. What we set the pay at now is going to be locked in for some of these folks for what, I don't know what the longest is or how many, but I got the idea of 3 or 4 years.
Well, this committee will rejoin after we close our charter for this year. The next time will be 2 years from now.
Oh, okay.
For the
So
2023. So
okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm in favor of the 10%. Then I'm okay with that. Personally.
Okay. Do I have any other comments on that? Jose, anything else you want to add, sir?
No, sir. I think
Okay.
I've let my position be known.
Okay. Andrew, any other discussion?
I would say that we have to be stewards, not just for the committee, but for the public, and whether we like it or not, perception is a huge part of salary adjustments. So as soon as this hits Channel 7 and for the Albuquerque paper, councilors approve 10% raise. You want to see angry people at the meetings, then you're going to see some angry people. It may be justified that even more than that, but I think we have to be careful of how much raises we're giving to public servants while we're in a tight budget, as been brought up. We have not done a huge spike like this in the past, and of all years, I wouldn't say that 10%. I think that's far too liberal, and that's why I was doing a modest 2 to 3% for reconsideration as this council goes forward in future years.
Noted. I would say is my comment to the 10%. I think when you look historically, since this committee was chartered, there's only been a few pay raises that have happened for the city councilors. The 2% that they got in 2019 or effective 2020 was the first one they received in a period of 4 years. So I think if you look at cost of living allowances, increases, the rest of the city employees' pay raises over the course of 2015 to today, while they have been making pretty much on average 2% per year, the city councilor have only received 1 pay raise, I believe, since that period. So I think they are well behind on the schedule of everybody else that works for the city. So, so whether we agree to the 10% or not by vote, I think there is definitely an indication that city council has not been receiving pay raises commensurate to the rest of the city employees. So,
Yeah, I think this is Kent. If I understood it correctly, they got the raise to $30,000 in 2015. And then
30,
in 2017, or was it 2017 that they went to?
they were,
Page 13.
yeah, 2019, they went to
30,600, right?
that was, I think that was the president alone, right?
No, I think you got 32.6.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But I was
Sorry,
trying
my
to think,
bad.
what was it?
In 2019, they got that 2% bump to
And,
take them to 30,600.
and prior to that, it was 2015.
Yes,
When they went to 30. And I believe the cost of living since 2015 to 2019 was 13.2%. And if you multiply that times 30,000, that's $34,000,
hmm,
which is, we're still below that.
Right.
We're not even, to speak to your point, Fred, we're not even keeping up with the cost of living. They're still going to be making effectively less than they did in the 2015 raise.
Right.
If I'm interpreting that right, plus that 13% doesn't consider what's happening this year. So probably more like 15%,
hmm.
which is,
This is Andrew, just a comment on that. Are we comparing the city councilor's part-time salary though to full-time employees? So some of the comparisons that talk I've heard about, they didn't catch up, but we weren't discussing part-time city government.
well, percentage, excuse me, this is Kent, percentage wise, it shouldn't matter. If the cost of living went up by 15% and you were working half-time, to keep even, you got to get a 15% raise on your half-time salary. So if we thought that it was equitable in 2015 to pay these folks for whatever they work, $30,000, and the cost of living has gone up 15%, then just to tread water, they're gonna have to make whatever that works out to be, 34,500 or
Right.
something.
With benefits and with an assistant that makes $70,000 a year.
Well, a lot of people have assistants.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Okay.
Just for information, that we're not being totally extravagant, in 2015, the mayor's salary increased 109 to 125. And councilors' salaries increased 71% from 17,500 to 30,000.
Right.
And, we're the dogs in this. It's not that people may blame the council, but their defense is they didn't set the pay rate.
True statement. So, but it would come back to us, but we provide the rationale for our decisions. And that wouldn't be included, the fact that they have not seen a pay raise. So that would be included in our statement that I would sign at the end of all this. So any other discussions then? Because I know we have the motion, and we've had some indications. Any other discussions on this? Then I would like to take a vote for the motion that was a 10% increase for city council. So by voice vote, if I could get your names and your vote, please.
This is Jose Ponce. I vote yay for the 10% increase.
Okay, next.
Kent Hickman, in favor?
Is that an aye?
Aye.
Next,
Dwayne Trithall, aye.
next.
Andrew Higgins, absolutely not, no.
And then this is Fred, and I vote aye as well. So results of that, then we have, out of the 5 individuals, we have 4 ayes and 1 nay for a 10% increase. So let it be noted that it passes by this committee for a 10% increase for the city council. And then moving on to the next discussion point would be city council president. I'm not sure if that individual currently is up for, but that may change, so we still have to address that. So the question would be, do we want to give that same percent to the city council president, or a different percentage, or nothing at all?
I'd move that we give them a similar raise.
Okay,
I'd second that.
second that.
Wayne.
So I have a motion for the city council president to receive a 10% increase as well. I have a first by Kent and a second by Dwayne. And do I have any discussion on it? No discussion? So then I ask for a vote on that. Again, a voice vote from all members.
This is Jose Ponce. I vote yay on the 10% raise for the city council president.
Next,
This is Kent Hickman. I would vote yay.
next,
Dwayne Trithall, aye.
next.
Andrew Higgins, no.
And this is Fred and I vote yay. So again, for the city council president, we have a vote of, oops, I don't know why I put that, 4 members saying yay and 1 member saying no, nay. So then take that as close that the city council president will also see a 10% increase effective when they are eligible for that position based off of their election cycle. Okay. So gentlemen, that takes care of the city.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a clarifying question? As you know, the city council president is elected by the members of the city council.
That is true.
Okay, and so if a member is newly elected or re-elected, and they get a 10% raise, and then the members elect, and let's say to make it simple so that everybody can understand, that the previous salary was, to keep it simple, $100. And so a new person's elected, this motion is passed, and so now this newly elected person or re-elected person is getting $110. And they go to the next city council meeting and their fellow city councilors elect them president of the city council, which does have a lot of extra duties to it. And so then they now get another 10%, which would be 10% of $110.
No, that's not correct.
No, I don't see that.
The salary is set already for the president. So
Yeah.
if you're making $100 and you are, and we give them a 10% raise, then the city council president's salary is already set at a predetermined amount. If they get elected president, they just get bumped up to that predetermined amount, not an additional.
In effect,
10%.
they're getting no increase at all then.
No,
I
to use your
think
analogy, if you're city council and you're getting $100 and the city council president gets 110, if you are elected to city council and then you're going to get that $100. If you are elected by the council as president, your salary is just going to go up to $110. You're not going to get 10% plus another 10%.
I believe, excuse me, this is Kent. I believe we just voted to raise city councilors to $33,660 from $30,600. And what's the president's 32,600 times 1.1. And we voted to raise the city council president's salary to $35,860.
Perfect. Okay, I just wanted to make sure because it wasn't clear. I didn't believe from the way the motion was stated. But now it is.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm glad you asked the clarification question. But then the reality is, if the city council, whomever is the president today, and this pay raise goes into effect for the next election period, if the president does not get reelected, they potentially will not see the pay raise anyway, right? Based off of the position that they're only going to see this pay raise at the beginning of their next term for their election, not just because they're the president, but then at the same time, if the council decides they want to make somebody else the president, who just their term starts December 1st of 2021, they would be eligible for that pay raise. That's how everybody sees it, correct?
That's how I see it, correct. This is Jose.
All right, that's how the salary commission sees it.
Okay.
I don't think it's clear, but
I think that, excuse me, this is Kent. I think the confusion is we voted to raise the salary of the council president by 10% for that position, as I think Jose was talking about. We didn't say that each individual, regardless of whatever position they are in, will get a 10% raise once they're elected to be the city council president. Right, and I think that's the difference.
Yeah, they're not getting an extra 10%.
We were talking about the former, it's just for the position and not for the, individual.
This is another way of.
May I ask?
I'd say the counselors get $33,660 and the president gets $35,860.
Yeah, that'd be
so it's not percentages.
Right.
But I do have this is Dwayne again. I have another question. If we have an existing counselor who is chosen as counselor president, but not up for re-election in the general public, do they get the $35,860? Or do they get it when they get re-elected by the public?
My understanding, this is Jose, my understanding is they only get it upon re-election.
Yeah.
Upon the beginning of the next re-election cycle.
Right.
That's what these raises are about. They're about, and again, this is the safety measure that was built in so that you could not punish or you could not reward a sitting councilor. It would have to be somebody who, upon the next election cycle, the raise or the cut, for say, would go into effect. So whoever is a sitting council member and is elected, let's say that they're not up for election for another 2 years. If they're elected president at the beginning of this term, but they weren't reelected, their term is still ongoing, they'll get the old salary. They will not get the new salary until there's a new election cycle, and whoever is president is reelected.
And John, I think we can clarify that in the report and recommendations. We can clarify that specifically if we need to. So, okay. It is currently 5:52. I know that GovTV we were available till 6. I do not believe we have sufficient time to go into the mayor's salary. But because we have already had the votes before us for the commissioners, or the counselors, I would like to end this meeting. But before we do, let's schedule another meeting that we can get together and talk about the mayoral council, the mayoral salaries. And probably from that, I think we could potentially have one meeting, maybe 2 meetings, I don't know. But I don't want to force anybody into a decision and to push it too quick. But I'm hoping that we can take the next maybe 2 weeks. Does that work again for everybody? If we push this out 2 weeks from now, would end up being the...
Excuse me, Chairman.
Yes,
GovTV says we can continue if you'd like. There's no restriction on the time.
Okay. Committee, tell me what you want to do. You want to continue moving on, or would you rather end this meeting at 6 and then get back together again?
I just soon continue.
Andrew, I'd soon continue. We're all here. We're all focused in on it. I don't think there's any need for a delay.
Okay,
I think we can continue. I don't think it will take that much longer to do the mayor's salary.
okay, all right.
Concur.
Then we're gonna continue on. So, all right, so let's talk about the mayor then. Currently 125, he is up for, the position is up for election, or this mayor for re-election in November of 2021. So this salary change, anything we do would take effect for that period, starting that period. So I know we've all seen data and we've had some conversation already on the mayor's salary in comparison to other cities. So let me open the floor for some conversations.
This is Jose Ponce.
Okay,
I'm proposing for discussion, 20% cut in the mayor's salary. To bring him not so much in line with other cities, but to bring him more in line with the people who work for him and the rest of us. It's been a very, I think it's a prudent measure based on our budgetary restrictions for the last year and for the coming year.
okay, so Jose, then I'm going to just clarify, you're making a motion at this time for a 20% reduction in the mayor's salary?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Would anybody like to second that? Okay, I have no seconds on that. So therefore, under Robert's rule, that automatically withdrawn. Okay. So then is there any other discussions or any other input somebody wants to make, or any other recommendations or motions?
Fred, this is Andrew. I'd like to make a motion for a 3% increase in the mayor's salary, based off of specifically the cost of living adjustment for Albuquerque, the growing demands of the position in these difficult times.
Okay. So I have Andrew making a motion for a 3% increase for the mayor's salary. Do I have a second on that?
This is Dwayne. I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a second for a 3% increase. That open up for conversation.
This is Kent. Andrew said for cost of living, again, I thought that the mayor's salary was increased to 125 in 2017 and hasn't been increased since. Did I read that right?
2015.
2015. And then it gone up, and the cost of living here, not counting the current year, has gone up by 13%.
Okay.
So that would imply, that it may, I don't know in 2015 if that was an electoral year or if that salary didn't go into effect.
Well, it had to be an electoral year for the following year for when the mayor took over.
Okay.
Page
So-
13 at West 2015 in the data points.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, that would imply that, he's lost, the mayor's pay has lost ground compared to what it was initially when the salary went up. I'm not necessarily arguing for a 13% increase or more, but I guess I kind of feel like 3% might not be, really adequate to.
Okay. Any other comments?
Oh, this is Kent again. What Jose mentioned again, the revenues for the city and the COVID economic impact, and we never did come back to that. I kind of like to know sort of what the data says about, are we in a big hole, compared to where we were? I just don't know.
Yeah, I think if we pulled the research information, I don't know the exact numbers, but the city's tax generation is down significantly this year, so, but because of COVID.
Right.
And it's hard, I don't have the actual numbers in front of us, and I don't think anybody probably, Nicole, you probably don't even have those numbers in front of you, do you?
Sorry, not for the current year. We have from the fiscal year 2021 budget revenues. The total impact on city revenues for fiscal year 2020 was estimated loss of $27 million. And so I'd have to look at what the estimate is based on the proposed budget for this year. But that was last year. But I will say that the mayor's proposed budget for the next fiscal year does include a 2% wage increase for union employees. It has not been approved yet by city council.
Right. Okay.
This is Andrew. And if you look over the Barry years when he was mayor and his salary was cut before, I'm not sure there was any positive equity that came from that. And then it took years to get the salary back online for the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's being recalibrated again. Anyone that takes the position and does it to the best of their ability to be a mayor of the size of a community for the day-to-day demands, specifically in a no-win situation like we've had this last year, I think that the salary is, well, some of the compensation is good. The salary is relatively low in comparison to the stresses of the job. And so I think that a moderate raise of the 3% is conservative, but also meaningful for the position, regardless of who gets elected.
Yeah. And I do know that in 2019, I believe it was, that he'd given pay raises to some of his staff, and some of those raises were in the teens, 19%, 20% for some of them, some significant raises that they received, but he did not. So I think he's definitely, if you look at the other cities, even with the comparable budget sizes and employee sizes, his pay is rather low. But I'd say low by, from my viewpoint, probably $20,000 worth. Yeah. A 3% raise gives him, I know you just did the calculation, didn't you, Dwayne?
Yeah, $3,750.
So it takes him up to
$128,750.
Yeah. I still think for a city that this size, with all the activities and being conscientious of COVID and the rest of the community, I think that's a small salary considering, but that is just my comments on the motion that was presented. So
Did we get, Ken, did we get a second on Andrew's?
yeah, Andrew gave the motion and Dwayne seconded the motion. So then I guess we're at a point where, are there additional comments?
Could I amend it to, just for discussion's sake? I wouldn't be averse to asking for more like a 6% increase for some of the reasons that Andrew said and Fred said.
Yeah.
Are we amending the motion?
Well, officially, the motion has to be amended by the individual who presented the motion. So Andrew would have to withdraw his motion. As I understand Robert's rules, he would actually have to withdraw his motion and then another motion be made, or he could make an amendment to his motion if he so desires.
No plans to withdraw the motion.
No plans?
No plans.
Okay. So at this point, then the motion remains at 3%. And if we have no other conversation on it, we can take a vote on that motion. Again, for clarification purposes, the majority passes the motion. And if there is no majority, then we can readdress another motion if that one fails. But again, that's just for clarification for all parties. So that being the case, any other discussion on the 3% increase for the mayoral salary?
One additional comment, this is Andrew. Just for Kent, I think that I understand by 6%, I can understand definitely where you're coming from on that, or maybe even more. However, when you look at the mayor's compensation package, you also have a car, or a car allowance. And then there's the protective security detail, and other commitments throughout the community. And so when I was looking at that, plus the retirement compensation or insurance, et cetera, understand 6% would be great. I think that if there is a vehicle, I think he has raised salaries for his team, some of which I thought was excessive, including a new superintendent for to include the APD. And I think that I came up with 3 proposals beforehand. It was 1%, 2%, and 3%. And I went with 3% only after hearing the discussion tonight about city council, and which I was surprised about, but I went a little bit higher to try to understand where everyone was coming from. But I think that 3% is the most meaningful that I can come up with. That's not going to be extravagant for a mayor.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, then we have a motion, second, comments made, and now like a voice vote on the motion, which is a 3% increase for the mayor, for the mayor's salary.
This is Jose Ponce. I vote nay.
Next.
I'll vote nay.
Andrew Higgins, yes? Yay.
Dwayne, nay.
And Fred Pugh would vote yay. But that being stated, the results of that are 3 nays and 2 yays, so that that motion fails.
I'd move that we increase the mayor's salary by 6%.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, so I now have a motion for a 6% increase by Kent, seconded by Dwayne. And now I open the floor for conversation once again. Anybody? Okay, so I have no conversation. So then we go to a voice vote again. So starting out.
This is Jose Ponce. I vote nay.
This is Kent. I'll vote yay.
Andrew Higgins, vote nay.
Dwayne Trithall, yay.
So you guys put me in a position, don't you?
You should have voted first.
I sincerely appreciate that. And recognizing the purpose of the committee, why we're here. And try to keep my comment very minimal, but why we're here and what we're looking at is not the performance of our mayor or our city councilor, but what we look at from the salaries in comparative cities. I would have to say yay for this. So in that case, then I have 3 yays, 2 nays, which means the motion is passed. So if you could record it as such, then I think that from the committee standpoint sort of concludes our voting purposes, but our next process honestly is to take the motion, review all the documentation for that. And then for me to sign off on it, but I want everybody to have a chance to review before I would just sign. So I think we could do that via now. John, you may have to input on this because we don't have the final written in front of us. We can do it via Zoom meeting, but it has to be another formal meeting, correct? For us to approve the minutes or to approve the recommendation for the salary increases. You're muted, sir.
I thought that was bad.
Yes, okay, I can.
There you go.
The screen is minimized for some reason. Yes, you should take a formal action. It's not just a matter of voting, but it's doing the report.
Right.
So-
So while we've done our voting, we still have to review the report and the final version of the report and approve the report.
Correct. And that has to be done in an open meeting.
Right.
Right.
So from that standpoint, then Leslie, Nicole, can we schedule a meeting in 2 weeks just for approval of this? And does that work for the committee members? Jose, can you, and that 2 weeks from now would be date wise. Sorry, as I bring up my calendar. Today is April 15th, so it would be April 29th. Jose, are you available April 29th to formalize the documentation?
Yes, it appears that I am.
Kent,
Yes.
Andrew?
29th.
Yes, sir.
As far as, I'll say yes.
Okay. Dwayne?
Yes.
Okay. And again, gentlemen.
Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
One question for John. My understanding is that the way the charter is written, that after the commission's review and should they determine that that a salary should be increased or decreased, that the only necessary step is to file a written salary schedule with the city clerk, indicating the proposed salary. So does that require, to be able to file that written salary schedule, does that require a vote by the commission?
You know, it probably doesn't, but in the past, I believe they have always done a report as to the justifications for it, right?
Definitely, as part of that written schedule. I think they've included the report as part of, or the schedule as part of the written report. But then
Yes.
the commission would need to meet again to approve the final report.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what we're setting the April 29th date for.
Okay.
Okay. So for everybody else, then Nicole, Leslie, John, Vanessa, does that date work for all of you?
Yes.
And time and place, same. Again, that's easy for us to do Zoom. Would assume that you'd get that out to us before so we can all review it. And quite honestly, I think the agenda for the meeting will be literally just to review the documentation, make sure it's accurate, and get everybody's approval, sign off on it, and we would have satisfied our 2021 commitment for this committee. Okay. So if there is nothing else, then I thank all of you. I know the discussions are true to our hearts, and I appreciate that everybody kept the political side out of it and just looked at the numbers and tried to make an assessment based off what we felt fair for the positions. And for that, I thank you and officially adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.